Yeah, off the hip.
Good afternoon, Boomi fans, and welcome to Dallas, Texas. We're here at Boomi World 2025, midway through our first day of 2 days of power-packed coverage. My name's Savannah Peterson, bringing you all the latest with Paul this week. Paul, we have just toured the Boomi C-suite.
We did, absolutely. With everybody talking about the tech and all the new advancements that's happening, it's really, really cool.
It is really cool, and we had 2 Canadians on, which is always kind of fun.
We did. The partner stuff is equally powerful.
Partner stuff is super cool, and I'm really excited for this next conversation. It's very data-driven, which I know you're going to love.
Absolutely.
Atif and Dan, thank you so much for coming and hang out on the show today.
Yeah, our pleasure. Thanks for having us. I enjoyed the Partner Summit as well. Yeah, thanks for coming. Very good.
Yeah, this must be an exciting week for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely thrilled to be here and be part of the summit here again, and looking forward to have a conversation here.
Yeah.
So we're in the midst of what we can all agree is the most dramatic and wild technological revolution of probably our young lives at this stage. Everyone's moving at an incredible velocity. How are you guys, talk to me a little bit about the partnership, and Atif, I'll start with you, and Dan, you can chime in. Sure. Talk to me a little bit about the partnership and how Accenture's working together with Boomi to help meet the customer demand at this incredible velocity.
Yeah, so, from an integration, from a software development perspective, we actually work very closely with the partners, with our clients. And when it actually comes to integration and software development, Boomi actually has been a super, partner with us for integrations all the way from, inception of Boomi. We actually have worked with Dan's team closely, and then from a trends perspective, software development actually has changed quite a bit over the years. It was more deterministic. And it has actually changed a little bit over time, and we're looking forward to actually basically working with them on AI front and see what are the possibilities and how we can actually change the client paradigm and how we can actually create value for them.
That's awesome. I didn't realize you'd been working together since day one of Boomi, or in the very early days. That's super awesome. How important are partnerships like this with Accenture for you, Dan?
Oh, it's fantastic. It's just hugely important. The relationship is fantastic. I'll just back up a little bit about the question you just asked and how we're working together, and somewhat the why.
Yeah,
right?
please.
And so the pressure on companies today is massive, right? First of all, they're feeling the legacy code build up year after year after year of implement new applications, solve crisis du jour, right? Add another layer of integration, potentially put my organization at more risk, get further and further behind on the demands on the business with smaller budgets and yet more pressure and higher expectations from customers. Now enter AI, right, as even more pressure, right, on these organizations that, hey, you've got to react, you've got to respond. How do I take advantage of this new technology, even though we're not really sure what that technology is going to do for us? Right, there's just tremendous, tremendous pressure. The good news is, though, that we can leverage AI to start solving some of those problems and all that legacy code that's built up over the past several decades. And the reason why we love our partnership with Accenture so much is because they've been with us, as well as all of the other software companies, over the last many decades, and they understand the enterprise like nobody else, right? They are in the business, they are in the industry, they have the functional knowledge of the Office of Finance, the Office of HR, supply chain, retail, all of the industries, et cetera, and so there's few partners out there that can give that breadth of knowledge to then take advantage of the integration capabilities that we have and the automation capabilities we have and the AI governance capabilities we have. So it's a perfect marriage from our standpoint, and we try to contribute to their overall customer value that Accenture provides.
Well, when you look at Accenture's at the forefront of the digital transformation initiatives, and they have that core kind of delivery as a service delivery partner. It really is powerful when you look at it, and it makes a lot of sense when we start looking at the future of the application landscape from the business perspective. But when you look at agentic AI, according to your research, this is your research. Now I'm a data guy, I'm an analyst is what I do, but like your research is saying that 78% of business leaders are looking at technology systems to be built for agents as equal as to humans. What are your thoughts around that? Like why do you think that?
So I think, if you look at the traditional software development, right, I'll explain it a little bit, in easy terms. You have a web application front end, you actually have a data access layer, you actually have a business logic in there. Yeah. This business logic has been now confined within that application in the monolithic applications for over the years. Now, if you take a look at how the AI is going to basically change, that's in the business logic. It's going to not be deterministic. It's going to be more agile, more AI friendly. And I'll give you an example. in a company, for example, if you have your company, engineering company here in US, it needs to actually order parts from our US partners and Chinese partners and from Singapore and other parts of the world. I'm pretty sure they're going to have an inventory agent. An inventory agent is going to actually go and figure it out. I need these parts to be ordered at a certain date. And once you actually go into that, they'll actually basically reach out to the partners in an agentic manner, not through human, and they will actually basically say, okay, what is the pricing, what's the lead time? These agents are going to basically collaborate with shipping agents to understand what the lead times are, what the shipping rates are. They will also actually understand the context of how many orders and what they need to be filled from a orders agent's perspective within the organization. So these agents are basically pulling information, they're orchestrating information, and they're also basically now submitting transactions on behalf of the companies. And if you actually give them a little bit more memory, agentic memory, they will actually go figure it out that I need to actually order this much quantity from this partner and this much quantity from this partner to maximize the profitability of my organization. So fundamentally, what we are changing, we're seeing the change is the architecture needs to be updated for these organizations, for all these softwares, and AI is going to be in the forefront of this thing, and you'll actually basically see a lot of these machine-to-machine communication. And what that actually means is, it will actually basically be more integration-driven, and all of these processes need to be exposed as services, as APIs, not within the organization, but outside the organization as well.
It's important to note here that this is not just theoretical, right? What we find is 77% of executives are saying AI agents are reshaping their business, right? Yep. And from a Boomi perspective, that's an important distinction, because when you look at the heritage that you have of infrastructure and the integration and bringing that to the next generation of what's happening for agent development, that really harmonizes the data sources and everything in the back end.
That's right.
If you don't have that harmonization, it's very siloed.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, well, again, fascinating stuff, amazing times that we live in. It's the next evolution of systems talking to each other, right? So we provided that integration for a long time. You even have trading partners, supply chain partners, banks already communicating with each other without agents. That's just data transfer. We do that all day long with Accenture. Companies can do that on themselves. What we're doing now is adding context and understanding, right? Maybe thinking, right? And choices being made by the agents, which are actually going to take action based on what they're seeing. Not just provide data back and forth, but actually make decisions.
Right.
And I think that's really fascinating. It's also going to change the interfaces we need to create, because up until that time, decisions were being supported by a human interface, right? And we think that will still exist.
That should still exist, right?
Yeah.
But you'll have to have an additional interface, right?
Yeah.
But so you'll continue to modernize the interface from what was once a green screen to then a GUI interface to then a phone to all kinds of different ways where we interact with our applications and the data and the companies and the governments which we interact with. But now you're going to have this other third party called an agent do things for you as well. And so we have to create an application interface for them as well. And so I think that's, again, what's amazing about Accenture is they're at the forefront of this thinking and how that should look and act. Sure.
Yeah, well, and best practices. I mean, you wouldn't be delivering these solutions at the scale that you do if it wasn't for the best products that make that all easy to work with.
Correct.
So I'm curious, because you're both on the front line, so to speak, of helping customers adopt and adapt and grow right now in this unique time period, if you could wave a magic wand and dispel a myth or educate the entire industry right now on something that has to do with integrations and what's going on here, what would you love to debunk?
I don't know if it's a myth or people just haven't awakened to the concern I have yet, is that agents represent massive amounts of risk, right, for organizations. Certainly, data risk is out there already. We've seen many, many examples of data leakage, et cetera. Companies have huge problems, and it impacts their earnings, impacts the customer trust. So that's just when data is flowing freely, right, if they've been hacked. What if somebody embeds an agent in your organization that makes decisions and takes action while you're not looking, right? And while you're not monitoring, 100%. While you're not managing. So from our standpoint, I would say, first of all, I guess there is a myth in there that will not happen, right? That is for sure going to happen.
Absolutely going to happen.
Because people use
It's probably already happening.
Methods of deploying software today, of course they're going to deploy agents, and of course those bad things need to be accounted for, right? And so that's why we're so proud about the announcement we've made about putting a governance and control tower in place to not only govern the agents you create in Boomi, but all agents, right? So you can now discover agents no matter what platform they're deployed on, be that Amazon, be that Azure, be that Salesforce, be that ServiceNow, be that SAP, and provide an enterprise security layer and governance layer for all of the agents that are surely going to be deployed across every organization. So,
again,
so kind of a myth and a reality there, and I hope people don't think it's a myth that will happen, because it for sure will happen.
Yeah, the harmonization of the ecosystem that you're working with is obviously an important part of the delivery of the next generation of what you're doing. Data quality is also incredibly important. So protection and governance and regulations obviously comes into play. Yeah. And I know Accenture had some information around where executives were looking at data quality. What are your thoughts around data quality and to this point of if you inject problems into the agents, how is that going to impact the future?
No, actually, a funny thing is I actually read a stat somewhere, 70% or odd, right? Integration, the agents are actually, the POCs that are actually going on within the organizations, they don't make it to production. And I was like, what is driving that, right? It basically primarily comes to two different things. One is data quality is the first one. Yeah. And the second one is security and governance and biasness in the data itself. So the data has to be accurate, the data has to be consistent, it has to be complete. It needs to actually be timeliness, of the data actually needs to be there. And I think the bias, mitigation actually that needs to be there as well within the data. So what the power of Gen AI is not in LLMs. It is data driven, and what with a good data quality, you can actually take LLMs from a storyteller into a trusted advisor, which actually basically can take into more. You can explain why the action was taken, and you can actually audit it, and you have compliance around it, and you have trust basically built in to actually basically be comfortable to actually basically put it into production. I think those are the things that we are seeing that are some things which need to be addressed within the AI adoption.
Yeah, I think Atif brings up a good point. And maybe this is another myth, and maybe I'm not seeing the myth because I'm so deep in this, but I think there is a natural assumption that my data is fine. Right, my organization works well together. Yeah. And it's just not true. I mean, there's so many studies that have been out there that most organizations have hundreds of applications out there and at least a dozen different integration tools, let alone data movement tools, let alone ETL and governance.
I don't even know what they have.
Exactly.
All of the same.
Exactly.
And
yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, I recent research report that I just did.
You got a great data point on this.
75% of the respondents said that they use 6 to 15 different tools in these silos to identify these.
That's right.
Yeah, so you're absolutely spot on.
That's right.
I mean, this is a problem, and those organizations that responded, 52% of them indicated in 2025 they want to remove those tools in favor of a unified platform.
That's right.
So that's the vision, the goal, the direction, and it makes it easier that way.
Yeah, and so if you think about what Atif just said about we want our LLMs to become trusted advisors, how can that possibly happen unless we have the data foundation layer in place,
Agreed.
right? And so again, opportunity for Boomi, opportunity to work with a company like Accenture to help rationalize that back end, help customers migrate to a proper data foundation layer that is now organized and clean and connected, right? To then feed the AI engines that will fuel their business going forward.
What's that interaction like when you're educating someone on the fact that maybe their data isn't as clean as they might think it is?
Oh, you're in the front lines of that all the time, right? Yeah.
It's
because it's kind of tricky, right? You can't be like, oh, this is so messy. Oh my gosh.
A bit like calling their baby ugly. Well, go ahead.
Exactly. I'm curious.
No, I think a lot of organizations actually understand, right? This has been a problem for decades for them. Anytime you actually have to basically do analysis on data and you have to do reporting, the data cleansing is the first thing. A lot of these transformations actually failed due to data conversion issues. So I mean, it's not a new thing, but I think it's an eye opener that how does your data or bad data basically can influence, it can basically increase hallucination. So that is a little bit of education, but I think most of the leaders actually understand the fact that data is important.
I think there is a fear of getting started. It's like,
I've
what
been
exactly
hearing that on
is
the
under
desk
the
today.
next
Yeah, we had a couple conversations about this that were a little like, ooh,
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
a little unsure I want to even open that door. Yeah.
I think that's exactly right. And
Yeah.
so, again, we've now leveraged AI to help customers convert legacy code and business logic to a single platform in Boomi. And so that helps them along that way. And what might have taken multiple years to get them to their starting point, only with the modern platform, well, now they can do that in 6-9 months. Right?
Yeah, or
in
sooner.
Massive enterprises, yeah. So
Or
you'll hear
sooner,
customers of ours talk about that this week.
No, that's great. I mean, that's something that came up earlier too, is the fact that reducing the complexity allows for organizations to hire more generalists and specialists, right? And what we're seeing in our research is 67% of organizations want to hire generalists over specialists, not because they can't hire specialists, it's because they can't find them, right? And so they either work and get generalists. Yeah, skill gap's a big issue, right? The other thing is they're looking at exactly what you said, is turning to vendors that reduce the complexity for them.
100%.
Right? And that's what you're hitting on, is acceleration of their digital initiatives, either by working with reducing the skill gaps with a generalist, or working with a service delivery partner to get it done.
Correct.
So we're seeing that across the board with our research, so it's spot on for what you're talking about.
Spot on, and that trust. One of the things that's great when we talk about y'all is everyone always talks about the trust that they have.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't think it's ever, I mean, it's always been a business critical feeling for people to have to work with you, but it's way more important now as we're thinking about what we're about to unleash and unlock with the potential, particularly of agentic. Yeah. I have one final question for you both, and I'm very excited to hear your answer about this because I think it's going to be very interesting. When we're hanging out at Boomi World 2026, what do you hope to be able to say then that you can't yet say today? Dan, I'm going to start with you because you're making eye contact with me. Yeah, and I see you trying to deflect.
I'm sure he's got a much better answer, but I'll start. Look, where I hope we are next year is that we start to realize the value, right, of all the promise of AI. Right now, we think it's coming, right? We see bits and pieces of it. I see every customer experimenting in little ways across the board, and I hope we earn that trust, that we give them the comfort that this is going to be okay. Right? We can actually get started, we can start using AI responsibly, right? We can start deploying agents responsibly, and they can actually start getting the value out of it. Because if you look at some of the studies I'm sure you've produced, I know Accenture has produced, everybody's saying, I need to deploy AI now, but I'm scared as heck that something may go wrong, or I'm not sure what to do with it, or I'm not seeing the return.
It is that fear, you're absolutely right there.
If we can show them return in a responsible way that doesn't expose them to unnecessary risk, that's where I hope we'd be. Yeah.
Well, we look forward to telling that story, Dan.
We'll
what
be
about
here.
you, Atif?
Yeah, I think it comes down to value for the customers and how we actually can basically change customer customer experience for their customers, and how we can actually basically change the employee experience within the organization. So I think those are the two use cases, and hopefully we can actually get to a point where we actually can put these agents into production. We have enough good data to actually basically go train them, and hopefully we actually have a governance frameworks and agent-to-agent communication where we actually can bring in multiple different agents and hopefully are in a better position where we are today from a delivering on the promise of AI.
Awesome. Well, y'all heard it here first. We're going to be talking about that next year. Very excited. Thank you both for taking the time during what I'm sure is a very busy week.
Awesome. Our pleasure. Thank you.
And
thank you very
you,
much.
Paul, for joining me all week. This is fun. We're having a great time. I hope you're having as much fun as we're clearly having over here in Dallas, Texas at Boomi World 2025. My name is Savannah Peterson. You're watching theCUBE, the leading source for enterprise tech news.